Okay, so I think we can start, right? So this is should be the course of web application. I mean, if I'm in the correct room, okay. So my name is Enrico Masala. I'm the one in charge of this course. Okay, so we'll see mostly me at during the lectures and also in the labs. Okay, in most of the labs, let's say. I will be helped by my colleague Antonio Servetti. You will meet him, I think, next Monday. Okay, and we will first discuss a little bit about the course. Okay, so general introduction to the course. You already have these slides. Just to remind you, in case you didn't read the message or that I sent you through the web portal, you can access all the material of the course through the website, which is actually outside the web, the Politecnico web portal. Okay, just for convenience. Okay, in the Politecnico web portal, you will only find a news with all the links where you can find material and stuff. Okay, so the URL is on GitHub. It's simply Polito WA-2025. Okay, and here you will find everything you need for this course. In particular, the material. Let me make it a bit bigger. Okay. So the material where you find the slides. Okay. So the one that I'm going to show you today were the introduction, installation instruction, just a quick overview, but very quickly. And then we will start with JavaScript basics. So all the slides are available in advance on the website. Hopefully, let's say 4 or 5 days in advance. Okay, but for sure before the lecture. Okay, good. So on this website you will find everything else you need. Also for the labs, you will find the recordings. The recordings will actually be hosted on YouTube. Okay, so I will upload the videos on YouTube, but for your convenience, so that you can download them, I will upload the files also on the Didactica web portal. Okay, just for download. But if you just need to watch, I mean, YouTube, we found that it's very convenient. Okay, I'm wearing the headphones. I'm sorry if I look a bit weird, but you know, that's the best way to capture the audio, so the microphone doesn't go around and doesn't lose too much the sound. Okay, actually, students in the past editions say that the audio was very good. Okay, so I'm continuing. Okay, good. So first of all, goal of this course. Well, first of all, it's an introduction to web architecture. We need to understand the basic concepts about web architectures. Okay, and in order to do this, we will try to have an hands-on approach. So we'll try to design a web application, develop a web application, and in the labs you will do this. So we will have labs in which there are exercises proposed to develop a web application, starting from the simplest things. So first of all, we will start from the language, JavaScript, and then we will arrive at the end with a simple but complete web application. Okay. Well, we need to have a language for developing web application, and nowadays this means JavaScript. That's the language that is used worldwide to develop web application, also because it's the only one supported by browsers, basically. And since developing web application can be a complex task, we will use a framework to help us, especially later in the course, and this is called React. We will focus especially on the front end, but there is also a back end that we need to develop in order to make our application work. Okay. You should be from the course of study of cybersecurity, right? So actually, this is not the main focus of this course, but of course, since you are from this course of study, when there are important things about security, we will try to point them out. Okay, so to underline the important aspects concerning security. Okay, but there will be other courses when you go on with your course of study that will talk more in depth about security for the web applications, but security in general for computers and so on. Okay, so we will focus on basic security concepts. So we should try not to go too much in deep about this, but when it's time to say something, we will say it. Okay. But as said here, there will be more later in the course of study. So these are the main topics: JavaScript, the browser. We need to understand a little bit of, about the browser, because JavaScript runs in the browser for the web application. You open a browser and you go to a website, and the website loads code, JavaScript code. Okay, so we need to understand the browser environment, I would say, very well. Okay, and this is what we are going to design. Of course, we will talk more about this later in the course, but we will design single-page application, which is basically the modern way to develop web applications. Okay, and using React framework, as we said. Okay, so this is more or less the calendar. Actually, it's not really the calendar, it's more a list of the topics. It doesn't really map one-to-one to weeks, okay, but that's the list of topics that we will encounter during the course. This is the course organization. So today is the first lecture, so we are here, Monday, 29B, that's the room number. We should be here basically every Monday. We also have on Thursday another room, but still the same time, for lectures. Actually, we will not have lectures for both slots every week, okay? Because otherwise we will go too much. We will have too much hours, okay? So there is a detailed calendar or schedule of the course again on the same public website. Okay, we also have slots for labs, these green ones. There are 3 slots, means that we will have 3 lab groups at least in the beginning, then we will arrange depending on the attendance and so on. I understand that this time slot is not really the best one, but unfortunately, I cannot do anything about this. Okay, these are decided centrally by the university, and they gave us these slots, and we need to keep these ones. Okay, but we can adjust a little bit depending on the attendance and what happens during the labs and so on. So we will see. Okay. Important thing. We will start on the second week for the labs. So this week there will be no labs. So these 3 green slots will be empty. Okay, nobody in the room. Okay, I will also delete them from the schedule after this week, after this lecture. Sorry. If you click on the link, all the links I put on the slides are clickable. Hopefully. If everything goes fine. So if you click on the link, you'll find the schedule, which is already there for the first 2 weeks. Okay, every week I will publish 1 more week, hopefully in advance. Okay, especially when there are things that we are going to skip, like this. Okay, no activity, that would be the lab slots. Okay, so no labs for this week, so no use of those rooms. And you also find the material linked from the lectures, and after the lectures, let's say a few hours, okay, the time I go back to the office and I upload everything and so on, there will be also the link to the recording. Okay. Okay. It might happen that we use some class slots for labs, so in this room, but more likely maybe in the Thursday room, Thursday day. So in the room for Thursday, but you will be warned. I mean, warned is not a good word. I mean, you will be. I will tell you in advance, okay, using the schedule. Okay, because we like having labs because you learn things by doing. Okay, so you need to experiment yourself. It's not just that I can explain you how to program by showing a few slides. Okay, we will play a little bit. We will program a little bit together in the lectures, but you need to do it yourself and experiment yourself to really get advantage of this course. So the classes are in person, as you see today. As you can see today, there should be power outlets in the rooms. All the rooms that we got, of course, for sure in the labs, but also in this room and Thursday's room. We are not streaming live, but we are recording everything that we do in the room. Okay, like I'm doing now. Hopefully, okay, everything is working. Sometimes I check. It might happen that we give something to read before some lectures. Actually, last year we didn't really use this option, but I mean, it's there just in case. Okay, just very few things that you need to read, mostly to rehearse something that you should already know. Okay, so it's not something that I want you to learn by yourself. Okay. Labs will start March the 4th. So next week, Tuesday. Rooms, power outlets, but no computer. So please bring your own computer. Okay, that's something that didn't cause problem in the past editions of this course. So we hope everything is fine. And in case, I mean, you can work together. I mean, there's nothing secret in the lab. So in case you want to work with your friends together on the same computer and so on, you're free to do that. Okay, the only thing is that you need to bring your own computer. Okay, the text of the lab will be online some days in advance. Okay, so we didn't publish the next one yet, but I will publish it midweek this week. Don't know, maybe before Thursday's lecture, I guess. There will be exercises to be done during lab hours, but not only during lab hours. I mean, I expect you to finish the assignments also at home. Okay, I remind you that I mean, the class is not just this is 80 hours, of course. Okay, but it's 80 hours plus 120 hours of study by yourself, including the exam, actually, because the exam actually is something that you produce yourself and you submit. We will discuss it later. Okay, we will provide solutions for the lab, for all the labs. Here I wrote 1 week, but I mean sometimes even before 1 week after the lab. We will wait for everybody. Everybody will do the lab, and then we will publish the solution, of course. Otherwise, the temptation to look in the solution is too strong. Okay. Okay. And this I've already said this. Yeah, there are labs actually that spans multiple weeks, in the sense that we will start constructing something and then we expand it in the next lab, we increase it more in the lab after, and so on. Okay, for the groups, I know this is not so nice, but I have to do a division. Okay, so this is a division by last name, your last name of all the students that are enrolled in this course. There are more or less 150 students. Probably not all of you are here, but most of you probably. So I just divided by alphabetical order, and take note of your group. I mean, in the sense of that the first one is A to F, and the other one is the middle one. The second one is the middle one, and so on. You are free to change group. I mean, we don't really care if you come on Tuesday, what was the day? On Friday, okay? You can come any slot, but the point is that in case we run out of space, we need to have a rule to decide who can come where, okay? So let's see how the lab works the first week, maybe the first 2 weeks. I mean the second and the third week of the course, and then maybe we can rearrange things depending on how the things should suit best for you. Okay, so I know that this might not be optimal, and so try maybe for the first week to stay in your group and see what happens, and then we will decide. In case you need to change group because you have a train to catch, you have some other commitments and so on, feel free to do, but just be aware of this restriction in terms of space. Okay, so the rooms are I think at least 80-90 seats, the room for the labs. Okay, these ones are bigger, but the room for the labs are at least 80-90 seats. So I mean, if we divide 150 by 3 and we consider that somebody is not coming, there should be enough room for everybody. Okay, also not being too crowded. Okay, because otherwise it's a bit inconvenient. Okay, learning material is on this website, so the GitHub website. And you find everything, the slides, the schedule, links and supplementary material and so on. And, oh, this was the old one, sorry. Example exercises, labs, and also the exams, okay? We will talk about the exams in a few minutes. Video lectures are recorded on YouTube, are put on YouTube. Video lectures, I mean, there's the recording on the screen, and there's a small rectangle on the top right with my face and so on. So in case, some students like to see the teacher that points out things and so on, okay? But it's very small. And they will be uploaded to the Portale della Didattica, so the Polito web portal, just for you in case you need to download the files. Okay, because sometimes it's more convenient, you watch it offline and so on. Okay, how do we communicate? You already received an email. I invite you to subscribe to a Telegram channel. We already used it last year and it worked quite well, I would say. So in case you have any doubts, questions and things, you can write on the Telegram channel, okay? And the good thing of having the Telegram channel is that also your colleagues can answer, okay? Anybody can write on the channel. Actually, we have two topics in the same channel. You're probably more familiar than me with Telegram, but anyway, there's a general channel where typically it's only me that writes something because it's announcements and things like this. And then there's a general channel where you can write whatever you want. And of course, I can write and I will answer your questions in case you have some. But also, you can answer questions or ask questions and so on. Okay? Okay, so the questions are about anything except how to solve the exam. Okay, we will. I mean, as not. Of course, you can. I mean, you shouldn't talk between among yourselves for the exam, but I cannot control this, right? Because it's a home assignment. Okay, and so, but please, I mean, we will not use the course official channel to exchange information about the exam. About questions, I will create topics for each exam. Okay, each time there is a new exam. There will be four exams for a year. So it means there will be exam in June, July. Actually, 2 of them because there are 2 seats for the exams. And then there's September, and then there is January, February, depending where they schedule it. So there will be 4 topics, one for each exam, because of course you will have questions about the exam. Okay, and just to keep things ordered, we will have separate topics for the exam. But I mean, you cannot write on that topic asking, how do you solve this and so on. Okay. You're free to use any nickname. I've seen that somebody has also a lot of fantasy, but I mean, when you write me with direct messages, DM, just remember to tell who you are, because there are people who has a name which is one single character, people which has icons and so on. And if you don't tell me who you are, it's difficult to check for your situation. Okay. You can also send me an email. Actually, sometimes emails are more convenient if things are more structured, more you need to attach things, files, or anything that needs to be processed, let's say, a bit slower. Okay, and let's come to the exam. Okay, in case you have questions, feel free to raise your hands or also interrupt. The exam is an individual project development. So basically, we will ask you to develop a web application and submit it before a certain date. Okay, there will be a deadline. And if you want to participate in the exam, you need to read the text, understand the text. If you have any question, you can ask. And then you have 20 days for development. So it means that we will publish the text of the exam more or less 20 days before the deadline. Okay? And the deadline is basically the evening before the official date of the exam, which is again not chosen by us. It's chosen centrally by the Politecnico. But I mean, you know how exams works here. Probably you already have a semester here. So that's the official date of the exam. So 20 days before, we'll publish the text, and you have this period of time to develop your project. You will not start from scratch, hopefully, because if you follow the course, you have done the labs, you already have some code from which you can start. There are also solutions for the labs, so you're free to use those solutions, no problem about this. Okay, but it's better if you start from your own code, because you developed it yourself and you know how it works. Okay, that's the only reason, really. Okay, one important thing is underlined here. You're not just developing a web application that works more or less as required by the text. The point is that you need to use the approaches, the technologies that we have seen during the course. Okay? You know that you can develop things in very different ways, different languages and so on. Here the language is not that much you can choose because there's only JavaScript. But you know, technologies, frameworks and so on, we expect that you use React, because we talked about React in the course. We expect you to use Node.js on the server side. We will talk about this when it's time. Express for as a library for a web server, and SQLite database, which is not the best one, but it's simple enough for our course not to complicate too much the submission. Okay, so I'm telling this to you because, of course, there are people that already know web development, knows other technologies and so on. For this course, you need to stick to these technologies. Okay. If you are in doubt, there is something that is borderline. So yeah, there's something, for instance, from React, but we didn't talk about this in the lectures and so on. Just ask me, and we will find, let's say, a solution. Either you can use it, or it's better not to use it. Or in general, no, it's not written here. In general, anyway, everything you use, you need to be able to explain it. Okay? I'm telling you this little story. I mean, there was a student, probably a good student, last edition of this course, arrived at the exam, presented a project, submitted the project, we discussed the project, and I looked at the project, and it was using WebSockets. I'm not sure if you know what WebSockets are. It doesn't really matter. It's a technology, web technology, okay? And actually, we didn't discuss, and we will not discuss this technology during the course. And so, I mean, not really, I was not really happy, okay? But, I mean, it's kind of acceptable, provided that you are able to explain why you used it and how do they work, since we didn't explain them. Because we need to be sure that you developed it yourself and you know what you're doing, okay? Actually, I mean, the story didn't end well because, I mean, he was not able to say a single word about WebSockets, okay? So, just a warning, I mean, we see something in the course that should be more than enough to create a good solution, a solution for your exam that gets the maximum mark, okay? 30 plus laude, okay? You don't need to use something in addition to what we see, okay? Of course, maybe you need to search a little bit for libraries and so on that fits your purpose, but I mean general purpose libraries like you need to put a style that you like. Okay, it's okay to search for a library that provides you a style that is suitable for your application and so on. But I mean, you should not put different technologies. Probably they are not, and for sure they are not needed. Okay. Okay, so the exams will be published again on GitHub on the page. And you will submit a solution via this GitHub Classroom that is basically just a repository centrally managed by this GitHub Classroom website. You just have a GitHub account. You link it to your ID number and first name, last name, the first time you do the submission. Hopefully the only one you do the submission. And that's all. For us, that's all. And then you commit your solution on GitHub, and we will be able to download it and process it automatically. But there will be, specific instructions on the course website for this. And also, since you're probably curious about this, and we already had an edition of this course, you can just go on the past edition of the course and look at what is published. Okay, more or less it's the same. Maybe we do some small adjustments because things can always be improved. But I mean, more or less the system is the one that we used last year. So what happens after you submit the project? So you read the text, you developed the web application, client plus server, you submit it. Well, first thing, we run some similarity checks between all the solutions, okay? Just to make sure that there are not two or more students that submitted the same solution. That doesn't mean really identical solution, but means slightly different solutions. We have a tool for that. Of course, nobody will be discouraged just by a tool. It's just an automatic system because we cannot cross-check all the submissions together. First, at the first seat of the exam, probably there will be 80, 90, 100 submissions. So, the combination has quite a big number. But in case the tool tells us, well, have a look at those solutions, we will manually look at those solutions and decide what to do. Okay. Unfortunately, in the past, we found something which was almost identical, I would say. So of course, I mean, you're supposed to develop it yourself, and so it cannot be really almost identical to another submission. Okay. Of course, there will be part that will be almost identical, for sure. I mean, if we ask for authentication, and there will be username, password, and so on, and probably we will also give you the code. So probably that code will be the same for everybody. But there will be something else that you need to develop for passing the exam, and that part will be different. We have sort of automatic system to load all solutions on a Linux server. We will use Linux to test the solution because it's more convenient for us. We have a server for that and so on. And so you should try to stick as much as possible to the instruction that we will give to you about how to submit the project. Okay. But I mean, we can review this later in the course, okay, as the exam approaches in May, maybe. Okay, and then there will be an oral exam. So everyone who submitted a solution will be scheduled for an oral exam. The first seat, probably the first 2 seats of exams, will take place on different days because of the number. Okay, I told you last year was I think 90 submission at first seat of the exam. That will be end of June, beginning of July, and so we cannot pass everybody in a single day. It takes 20-25 minutes for each student. Okay, I will not be alone. Probably my colleague Antonio will help me. But in any case, it will take a few days. Okay. There will be these rules in part are already written on the website. We will have a look at the website in a few minutes. What's the oral exam about? Well, actually, we start having a look at what you submitted. So I mean, there's a text file where you put some key points of your application, and we will start reading that, and then we will try to test your application in your presence. It will run on the server for both the server and the client part. Okay, and we will look at the same screen together. Okay, which also means that you don't have to bring your own laptop or install it somewhere and so on. Okay, you submit it according to the instruction, and we will have it ready for the discussion. And these are the criteria that we will use for the evaluation. Okay, so we will evaluate the architecture, how the application works. It should have a minimum set of functionalities. Okay, if we ask for an application to, I don't know, book a calendar and I don't know, something else, I mean, you should be able to book something in the application. Maybe the whole application, I mean, the application will have some points that doesn't work that well. Okay, that's acceptable. As in any exam, you can make mistakes. Okay, and this have an impact on the final mark. But I mean, we don't expect everything will be perfect. Okay, it will be evaluated according to how it works. Okay. We will check, how the user interface works, how you use the APIs, what's the content of the request and the responses, and so on. I'm not expecting you to understand this today, okay? But during the course, we will learn all these things. We will have a look at the code also. So really looking at the code, me looking at the code, and looking at strange things or things that should have been done or they have not been done, and so on. And while looking at the code, I will ask questions, okay, about what you did in a certain part of the code, especially when we have problems. I mean, the typical thing that happens is that there's a part of the application that doesn't work as expected. Let's have a look at the code that corresponds to that. Not to fix it, because the exam is not a place where you can fix things, but to understand what's happening, and especially for me to understand if you know what's happening, or if because I need to ensure that you developed it yourself, okay? Because you will do it at home, and of course you can ask colleagues, but also other people to give you help, which is not wrong, I mean, per se, but I mean, it's wrong as in case you're not able to explain what you did. You didn't understand, you're not able to explain what you did. Okay. One important thing, because last year one student told me when I can come and to present my project, of course it was not a good one. And it's not a presentation. You're not supposed to present a project. Okay. You're supposed to assist, so look when we test the application and answer the questions in a way that hopefully makes me understand that you know what's happening and you know why you choose some ways of doing the solution, or of creating the solution, and it makes me feel that you developed it yourself. Okay, I must tell you, in general, I would say 99% of the students developed it themselves. Okay, so in general, it's not a problem. I mean, there might be some exceptional cases, but typically, students know their code and have an idea of where are things, at least. Okay, but then, of course, if there's something that doesn't work, I mean, if you had known it, you would have fixed it. Okay, so of course sometimes there might things that we don't really understand, or you don't really understand why they are not working, and so on, but at least you know more or less where you are in the code and what the code should do, or what you expect the code should do. Okay, that's good in general. Okay, okay, I already told you this, so please don't use technology not explained in the course. In case, just ask. Okay, the objective of the exam is not only to create an application that behaves as specified in the exam specification, so in the text. It's also how you make it. Okay. Of course, we know that more or less, I mean, that's an application, you can add things to a cart and then press, okay, buy it. We expect that at your level, more or less, I mean, there will be an application that shows a list of things and we can click and goes in a cart and so on. It's not just, to follow the text, which is good, of course, but also how you manage the interaction between server and client. How do you manage the update of the user interface? What did you choose to show, and so on. Okay. The text will be not so complex. I would say you only have 3 weeks to develop the solution, and we don't expect you to work 3 weeks full time. If you follow the course, you did the labs and so on. Okay. So you already spent time learning things in this course, and so we expect that the exam might take, I don't know, 3 days full time to be developed. Okay, out of the 21. Okay, so if it's going to take 21 days, probably you should have studied more before. Okay, or you should have experienced a little bit more before with these technologies and so on. Okay, being able to explain the code behavior is a fundamental requirement because it allows us to understand that you know your code. Okay, and it means that at least you know what's happening, and so we are quite confident that you developed it yourself, or at least you put your hands on the code. Okay, one last thing in this introduction. Well, this slide was not present last year. Things evolved quite quickly. Okay, so AI and code development. I want wanted to point out something here. Okay, we know that there are a lot of tools that can generate code nowadays. Even last year, people came and say, "Well, ChatGPT has said that," or "I did it with ChatGPT," and so on. For us, I mean, in general, it's fine as long as you know what you are doing and you are able to explain what you did. Okay? I mean, we cannot just say it's forbidden to use ChatGPT. You are going to use it anyway, right? So we are using it anyway. I mean, we are trying to use it. Maybe we can also try to use it during the course just to see what is coming out. But then, I mean, professionally, when you go out of this university, hopefully in 2 years, right? You will be out of this, 1 year and a half, right? You will be out in the industry, and I mean, tools like Visual Studio Code or other development tools have this system that can help you, right? And you will use it. So it's better to know things instead of just assuming they don't exist and then you need to use it. Okay. Try to use it. I mean, I'm not giving you the advice to use it every time, but sometimes, I mean, maybe you already did it. Try to use it and see what comes out. It's what you expect. Are there any critical points or issues that comes out from this code? It's like a friend or whoever that suggests you something. You need to be able to understand. Say, this should be right. Is there something that doesn't work as I expect? Can I trust it? Simply, can I trust it? And so on. Okay. So our experience at the moment is that, of course, if you ask for small pieces of code, typically it gets it right. It gets them right. But if you try to have the full solution, the whole solution for your project, probably there will be something that at least you need to fix. And so in this case, you need to understand what's going on to, to change the things that are not compatible with what you expect. Okay? Okay, so in short, we can say you can try, but try to avoid dump, cut, and paste. So just take and put there and see if it works. Because maybe sometimes it will work, but other times it will not work. Or other times it will show to those looking at the code, that means me and my colleague probably, that there is some incoherency in the style of the coding. Okay? Which is, I mean, I don't really want to say it's bad. I mean, for sure, it's not something that looks good. But, I mean, I will not give bad marks just for that. The point is that if I see incoherences, I probably suspect that you use some tools and so on, and I have the doubt that you don't, maybe you don't really know what's happening in that part of the code. So I will ask you something, okay? And if you're not able to answer, that will start to be a problem, okay? Because this will impact on the mark, the final mark. Okay, so that's more or less the introduction, and there are just some resources, final slides with some resources. Of course, we are not supposed to know everything with our memory. I mean, we cannot just use our memory to record all the parameters of all the functions in the libraries and so on. When we need for something, we will search online in the documentation and so on for what we need. The important thing is that we are going to do the design, and we know that there should be some functions or some primitives, something that should give us some behavior, and we have more or less an idea where to search it for. Okay, that could be Google or some search engine. That could be the AI systems like ChatGPT and so on. But they will give us hints to search for the correct function or I don't know, the correct primitives that we need to insert in our code, okay? And then we can test them and see if they work as we expect. So there's a lot of documentation, web application, of course. It's a big topic and everybody likes developing web applications, so the web is full of documentation. These are the most authoritative resources. So when you look for some documentation, I mean, it's fine. It's nice to ask ChatGPT, but you never know if it's really correct or not, right? At least nowadays, maybe in 5-10 years, we can trust it a bit more. But if you have some authoritative resources, like the official guide, the official list of APIs, and so on, that's better, right? And here are some websites you should know, okay? So like, well, fine, I don't know. We need to search for a function, okay? And that's the official documentation and so on. There's something for React as well. Actually, the link has changed, but it still works. So I mean, so we know it's okay. Oops. There are also books. Actually, they are here just for completeness. I would say nobody's going to buy these books. I don't recommend buying these books, just because, I mean, things change quite quickly. That's one reason. And the other reason is that so much documentation around that you probably don't need the books. We hope that during the lecture we will give you enough concept and ideas that covers all that is needed for passing this course. But not just passing the exam. I mean, the exam is one thing, of course, but you will get a general idea on how you should structure web applications, how they are structured when you encounter them made by others, okay? And so, in short, we should cover quite well, you know, most of the important topics on the books that you can find. There are also online books, free books, and so on. I mean, when they are available, feel free to use them. Okay. Of course, you have all the slides. So more resources and so on. There can be more than one place where you can find official documentation. That's fine, as long as it's well done and, you know, without errors and so on. Feel free to use whatever it suits best for you. Okay. So in case you have questions about the course, I'm glad to answer. Otherwise, I just spend a few words on the development systems that we are going to use in the lab. Okay, so there's a separate set of slides. Okay, with just a few hints on what you should install to work with the software that is required for this course. Okay. It's a separate set of slides because I've seen that last year nobody was able to find these instructions because they were you know, at the end of the introduction. So I made a separate set of slides. Well, basically we are going to use three softwares. Okay, the first one we need is this Node.js runtime. It's basically the environment where we can try to run JavaScript code outside the browser. Okay, and that's the first thing that we will use, because first thing we learn JavaScript. Okay, and we need a place where you can play with JavaScript. Okay, in a simple way without having a browser and so on. Okay. It's like if you did Python at the first year. I mean, it's like the Python environment, interactive Python environment, and you can run programs. Then I would say first Visual Studio Code. That's the programming environment, which is also useful for many other languages, but it's very useful for us because it supports JavaScript very well, and also the all the system that comes with JavaScript. Okay, we can install packages. Also, it supports GitHub in case you want to push, pull software and so on. So everything is integrated here. Okay, and the last thing recommended, is not really needed. It's not mandatory. I mean, but it's for sure recommended. Is this extension that exists for Chrome and Firefox when we will use React, that is the framework that we will use later in the course. It allows us to inspect a little bit of the properties and state and so on of the components made by React. So basically it helps in debugging the code. Okay. You might have a Mac. I have a Mac as well. Okay, I know that many of you maybe use Safari as a browser. Well, Safari is not really recommended in general for debugging with React and so on because has some strange behavior sometimes. So if we avoid using it, it's better because sometimes it's not your fault and you debug a lot and then you discover you just change the browser and it's fine. Okay, so. Of course, the web application can run in any browser, but running a web application is one thing. Debugging, trying to find problems and so on, is better done in another browser. And also, I think this. I'm not sure if this extension exists for Safari. I think not, but not really sure. Here you will find all the instructions for all the major systems. So basically there are three. There's Linux, in case you want to use Linux. There's Mac OS, so for the Mac, and there's Windows. Okay. I spent just a couple of words on Windows because I think most of you will use Windows. Well, option number one could be to use a virtual machine manager like VirtualBox and so on, install Linux in Windows, and basically do everything inside that box. Okay, it's like you have another computer with Linux, and so basically once you install Linux, you go back to this point. Okay, how to work with Linux. That's one thing. Option number two is to use what is called the Windows subsystem for Linux, which is nowadays ships with every Windows. Okay, and so basically you tell Windows to install Linux besides the Windows, and it's a sort of virtual machine, but more managed by Windows. You cannot really change many things inside this VSL system. Okay, but we know it's very convenient because you don't have to install a whole virtual machine. Okay, which might be heavy to run, heavy in terms of disk space and so on. So we know it exists, and so we gave some instruction on what to do. Okay, so just make sure you follow these instructions. Okay, you don't have to do it now. Maybe you can try to do it this week before the lab, because in the lab the first thing we will do is make sure that you have a system where you can work. Okay, so it basically means that you should have Node, that is the first thing we need, plus the Visual Studio Code working well. Okay, and so just have a look at the instructions. I don't think there's a point in reading all the instructions here. And in case there is something that you don't understand, something that doesn't work, we will have a look in the lab and what's happening and try to fix it. Okay, we are not magicians, so we cannot fix everything, but I mean, maybe with a little bit of experience we can help you to try to fix it or install it in case you need it. Okay. Okay, so just make sure you don't mix Windows and Linux in a way that doesn't work. Okay, because when you have everything on one system, either Linux or macOS or Windows, things should work. Okay, we don't recommend to use Windows for installing Node, Visual Studio Code, and so on, because at a certain point, some packages in Node will not work, or are at risk of not working. Okay, and so that's a system that we already tested well, and your colleagues last year tested well. And you can have Visual Studio Code running in Windows and the rest of the programs running in this VSL, so in Linux. And they will talk automatically. And this is the way you set up everything. Okay? Just make sure you don't work with your files in Windows if you have this mixed installation. Okay? And before I forget, so it remains recorded, but I will remind it again and again, and it's written in the exam instruction. Remember that Windows is not case sensitive. Also, Mac OS is not Linux, is not case sensitive as well. Okay, don't be fooled by the fact that you can put upper and lower cases in the file names. Because the point is that when you open a file, if you have a wrong upper lower case, it works. But when we test it in Linux, as we will do at the exam, it will not work. Okay? And a package that doesn't load means that the program will not run. Okay? Okay. So this is just for reference. It's useless that we read everything. Okay? Just choose a system, try to follow the instruction. In case you have problems, we will try to fix them in the first lab. Okay, so do you have any questions? It seems not. Yes, good.
For the project, is needed documentation or just?
Yeah, there's some documentation needed for the project, so this reminds me that we should have a look at the website. Okay, so there are already exams and rules on the website, this year's website, okay, 2025. Have a look at them. So exam, common instruction, and so on. Exam rules, that is more or less what I explained to you. Okay. A lot of recommendations and so on. I know there are a lot of recommendations and text to read and so on. But remember, for this exam, basically the project gives you the whole marks. Okay, so you can get 30 plus laude with just the project. Okay, that's why we have a lot of instruction. And so, coming back to your question, do we need to have documentation? Yes, I think might be here. Yes, the root directory of the project. No. It doesn't matter. The root directory of the project must contain a readme.md file. And have the same subdirectory and so on. And in this readme MD file, we will ask you to put all the documentation of the project. We will give you a template. And basically, in this readme, you will have to write all the routes that are present in your application. Of course, I'm saying something that you probably don't understand if you don't already know. But all the routes, React routes, all the APIs that you designed for the application, and then there's a small description of the components, React components, is the schema, the database schema, so the tables with the columns, and a screenshot of the application just to make sure we got it correctly when we open it, and the username and the password of the user of the application. Okay? There will be an example. I will provide an example of the README file, and I will provide a full example, a complete example of something which is comparable to the project submission at the end of the course. Okay, but of course, if I provide it now, I mean, you don't understand most of the things because we already need to. I mean, we still need to explain them. Okay, but in case you are curious, I know you are curious. Last year we couldn't do that, but I mean, this year you put it with 2024. Okay, this course is over, and you can see whatever you want. Okay, just remember this is last year, so it doesn't apply necessarily to this year. But you can see all the exams, I mean the text that has been given last year. Yes. And so on. You are curious to read an exam. I mean, that's the complexity of the exam that you will have to do at the end of this course. Okay? This is just an example. I mean, you can take another one and so on. Okay? There should be a link also in this year's. Okay? Exams, yes, sample text of exams from past edition brings to this place. Okay, 2024. Just make sure that you follow this year's instruction in case something has changed. Okay, but this is at the end of the course. Okay. So yeah, I think that's okay. We can say lecture examples. Now it's well almost empty. Okay, when I will develop code during the lectures, it means that during this time, Monday and Thursday, I will put the code here at the end. Okay, there is already a README file. No, not this one, but in week 1. Okay, exercises. There are just a few exercises we will try to solve, but next lecture. Okay. Today we are just going to talk a little bit of JavaScript, an introduction to JavaScript, and so on. Okay. So everything we will do during the lectures will be in this repository. Okay. So it will be updated every lecture basically when we do something. And yeah, there are recordings, the material, and there's a different repository for the labs, which actually currently it's empty. Okay, but there will be the text before next week, and then after that week there will be the solution of the lab. Actually, well, first lab will be very simple. I mean, just some code, JavaScript code. Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, let me see. Let's try to see. Just a few words about JavaScript, and then we will have a break. So you make sure you have the slides and so on during the break, in case you don't still have it. Okay, so basically we start talking about JavaScript. In this course we will use JavaScript, only JavaScript as a language, as a programming language. That's because we are also able to use JavaScript on the server side. That's the part that we need to make the web application work. Okay? And I know that there might be somebody of you that already knows JavaScript. I don't get offended if you want to go and leave and so on. I mean, we know that it's so widespread JavaScript that you probably already know some concept at least. Okay, and but we will try to see what is peculiar from JavaScript compared to other languages. So of course, I mean, any programming language has a control structure. If, then, else, and so on, while, cycles, etc. It has its own keywords. That's fine. You already know programming, so you're already able to program a little bit. Okay. And so we try to focus only on what is peculiar from JavaScript and try to understand the JavaScript programming style and the purpose and what you can do and what is what can be done in JavaScript only, or what is the way of doing things in JavaScript. Okay. So we assume a little bit of programming knowledge, but that's normal at your level. And we will focus on a certain version, this ES6. Okay. Actually, this is a major version of JavaScript, and basically it's the I mean, in terms of way of using JavaScript, it's the most recent one. Of course, there are more recent ones. Okay, 10 years have passed. But I mean, the main things that are contained in ES6 are still used today. This does not prevent us to use more, let's say, more recent functionalities, because when we will program in React with all the framework and so on, React will take care of supporting the more recent functionalities by means of transpiling. That means translating automatically the code in older code so that it can run on any browser for any application and so on. Okay, so in short, it's enough for us to focus on this ES6 version of JavaScript, which is very famous because it has everything we need to have for writing modern web application. Okay, so just a few words. So JavaScript is the top most used language in recent years. Okay, this is until 2020. I don't think that the situation has changed that much. That's because it's used in web applications. Web applications are everywhere. Okay. Just be careful. It's nothing to do with Java. Let's clarify this point. And it was named JavaScript just because it was nice, okay, for marketing reasons. It was designed quite a number of years ago, and I think that the first version was written in 10 days, but by basically a single engineer. It needed to solve a very small problem, let's say, and it became the most used language over the world. And so, you cannot really design a language in 10 days and make it really well coherent and well made and so on. So a lot of compromises have been done during this design. Okay, and some of them still arrive until today. And some of them have been lost over time, I would say, luckily for some bad construct and so on. Just to give you an idea, 1995, probably you were born after this date, that JavaScript was released, first version, okay, by Netscape, that you probably don't know. It's already I mean, the company doesn't exist anymore. Sun still exists, but I'm not really sure where. Anyway, it's something that comes from 30 years ago. Not really 30 because it's December, but anyway. And the fact is that it started as something with a very limited scope, just to put a little bit of interactivity in the web pages, and then basically it arrived at a point, this ES6, where it can be used to program anything, I would say, okay, in the web applications. But I would say there's somebody who is using it also outside web application. For instance, you can program web servers, okay, and we will see how to do that. Not because we really like JavaScript for web servers, but because so in this way we don't have to learn another language. Okay. So you see that here there's a 10 years gap, 2009. Let's say has been dormant as a language for quite a while. And then at a certain point, probably at the point in which people realized that you needed more interaction and more, client-side functionalities in web application, it started to be used. And as something starts to be used, it gets developed, it's get improved, is getting better, I would say. And so at a certain point we arrived at this ES6 where you had basically everything you needed to program something useful, and I would say even quite complex. Okay. And we will cover this ES6 version in this course. Just last word, and then we will stop for the break. Actually, JavaScript is now a standard. Okay, it didn't start as a standard. Okay, it was just a guy in that company that had a problem. They told him, well, solve this problem, and came out with this language in 10 days. Okay, and then things evolved. And now, since it's so important, it's so widespread, so used, it's being maintained in a standard. And it's not owned by somebody, okay? But basically, there's a committee behind the JavaScript. This is the technical committee 39, backed by a lot of people in, major companies. That is the normal situation for anything which is this big, okay? So just be aware of the history. I mean, we will not ask for this history at the exam, of course. I mean, it's just the history to know where we come from with this JavaScript. Okay. So I would say, of course, there's a standard. We will not look at the standard. Standard as any other standard. It's not useful to understand things. It's just as a reference. When you have a doubt and you need to check something very small, very detailed, and you have doubt, you check the standard. But otherwise, we need to find another way of understanding and learning JavaScript. And that's what we are going to do, I would say, in the second part of this lecture. If it's okay for you, unless you have questions, let's have a break. 10 minutes, a little bit more, I don't know. We start again at 2:30, okay, more or less. And we start learning JavaScript with the set of slides which is already online, okay? So in case you need them, download them. Okay. So let's have a break. And let's stop here.